The Lekker Rugby Pod, instant reaction with Harry Jones. Only on Megaphone Rugby.
Welcome to this very special instant reaction, the first test of South Africa taking on Italy. And Harry, I'm going to ask you right out, Paul the Toy in the house. That's a direct translation from Afrikaans. Was this a bit of a wake-up call and a timeless one at that? What you think?
You know, there was a great movie a few years ago that I think it was nominated for Oscar. It might have won the Oscar, called The Hurt Locker. And it showed the lives of people who go around and defuse bombs. And, you know, the life and death situations you decide. Obviously, rugby is not life or death, but our bomb squad has pretty much always worked. It almost always has gone off. And in this case, in this game, they ran on, have it exactly, at 47 minutes, on came Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Bongi, Vincent Tshituka, who had a good game, Archie, who had his offloads, Sos, who always works hard, and Kwacha, and came in 54 minutes. And then Faf joined in 54 minutes. I don't know, individually it was a problem so much as the bomb itself didn't go off. So we had a valuable, if it's a wake-up call, maybe, if we have a valuable information is, and what happens if the bomb squad doesn't fire? You know, what then? What's your war plan? You know, if your opponent can always defuse you, or learns to defuse you, because how long have people been thinking about the bomb squad when they see on their schedule, we're playing the Boks. The first thing they think is at minute 50, maybe, you know, we can turn the tide. Maybe we can switch this around, like Sun Tzu, you know, take their strength and make it a weakness. So maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. And the other thing is, in a tremendously experienced team, like over 1,100 caps total, about 700 and something, and a lot of caps. It actually was the most experienced players that didn't fire as much. And I really couldn't fault some of the less experienced. I think on the day you would have picked Morne over Faf. I think in some cases you would have just wished that they kept the starters on for longer. You know, the change from Jasper to Kwacha wasn't really great. Bongi didn't bring much to the party. So in addition to blooding new talent, so I'm saying don't hit the alarm buttons yet, guys. You also have to know how good is your old guard. So is Bongi reaching the end of the road? These Bok coaches have never shown any sentimentality. If he's too slow, if his joints aren't bending, if he's not able to get off the floor, then they're going to say, you know, it's been great. So I think there was some valuable information. You know, Willie got his 99th cap, but to me, you know, if nobody can tackle Damian Willemse on the field, then leave him on, because I didn't think any first-time tackler of Italy ever touched him. And so you just keep it on. So there's good and bad. Probably for a first time out, we're probably happier than the All Blacks.
Yeah, well, our friend Hugh Griffin disagrees with us. He reckons that Boks were worse than the All Blacks were this morning. That was quite an interesting. I told him, no, you're just stirring. He said, no, he's being honest and being straightforward here. I like that analogy that you're using of the bomb squad being diffused, because that's typically what it was. Just took the sting right out of it. And it might be because the bomb squad components are a little bit outdated now. And I personally think Bongi hasn't had a great season, never mind a great game, and it's just showed up again in this game. He is not in the form of his life. Does he deserve to be there? I'm glad you mentioned it. But yeah, like I said, I want to give a bit of credit here to Italy for playing better than we expected them to play. Same as France did this morning against New Zealand, the supposed B team or C team. Giving everybody a bit of a scare there. I actually ran a bit of a poll in that Afrikaans streaming that we did. Said, can Italy still scare us? And people were sort of a little non-committal. I think it was 40 to 60% people saying, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. But towards the end, it seemed like the Boks were just sort of running out of something, and they were just like the little boy with his fingers in the dike, you know, trying to stop all the leaks from occurring. That was a bit worrying for me. Like people were sort of flying all over the place. There was no structure. The defense was actually, I think, pretty damn poor. You know, where does the blame lie for that?
Yeah, for sure. So for sure, it's one of the worst defensive performances in 3 or 4 years. Yeah, so that's for sure. And you can chalk that up again to first game. I'll take Hugh on here. The reason why it's not even close, All Blacks was in their fortress, facing France, having spoken for months and months now about how this is almost a joke. None of the teams that went deep into the playoffs for top 14, those players weren't there. So imagine New Zealand taking a team to Stade de France in Paris, and they have no Crusaders, they have no Chiefs, and they have no Blues. Okay? They're going to get killed by France. So no, I don't agree. It's not like you watch this game and think the Boks would go to Italy fielding a much weaker team of Boks and wouldn't do fine. They would do okay. It's that we have expectations now because we are number one. And number two, I think the other thing we think about it is there was waste. There was waste. So I would agree on you on execution. So unlike the All Blacks who had immaculate set pieces and, in the end, playing a very well-coached Sean Edwards defense for the French, Italy was playing purely on Gies, and we had them. We had our foot on their throat. Should have been 35-0, but it ends up being 28-3. And then in a way, it's like that doesn't sound like a big difference from 28-3 to 35-0, but I think it would have been. And the scrums themselves, for example, it was awkward because they were always on their feed. And we were monstering the scrum, but the ref wasn't really pinging them unless you had to. And in some cases, it was just you want a tight head. I think a lot of other referees would have given us 5, 6, 7 penalties and carded someone at the scrums and would have been on. But I think there's stuff in our own control that we did wrong. Wasting things, simple things like, Ox, the only guy who could stop Vincent from scoring by the obstruction. That's just laziness. You just take 3 extra steps back and you're fine. But I think there was also something different there, which was in some of the kick battles, we didn't kick enough. The bomb squad works because you employ a system that everyone on the bomb squad knows. If you kick 10 times in the first half and 10 times in the second half, when your kick chase was just decimating Italy, you've got to up that by maybe even twice. It should be 40 kicks. So if Italy's kicking 30, 33 times, we're kicking 20 times. Those scraps were going to Kurtley Arendse. Those scraps were going to Eben, who was feeding people on the run. And so in a way, it's like we went ahead 28-3. Then that try gets reversed on the obstruction. We switch off, and then the Boks are looking at 28-10. And the whole complexion of the game changes. If it were more clinical, 35-0, you actually control the game more, you kick more, and you stop doing these sort of wild offloads and everyone trying to offload, then it never gets to 28-10. Instead, it's 35-3 or it's 38-3, and you just build scoreboard pressure. By letting them in, it felt like a big let-off. When Vincent Koch scored his try, though, at 35-10, I thought, okay, now it's fine. I don't know about you, but I thought, okay, now we're back to sanity, and we're going to just do normal stuff. And then there was a very weird set of things. A 50-22 after Duke kind of hit a nothing kick through the middle, and then the Italian guy hit the most, the Mona Lisa of kicks. It was a Sistine Chapel. It unbelievably bounced. Andre couldn't touch it, or it would have been even worse. So, he just let it go. It's 50-22. They score 35-15, 35-17, 35-22. And with 12 minutes to go, I'm like you. Tighten up. Whoops, what's happening? We have no other bomb. We cannot do a second bomb squad. The bomb squad's already there. And that's when you think, what if it doesn't work? What if maybe sometimes you just keep riding the first squad, keep everyone in, don't change anything, let Malcolm be Malcolm, let Eben be Eben, just let everyone run and just keep that same cost of characters. And that's probably what I would have thought they should have done, and maybe they were thinking we got to get minutes into everyone. We have to platoon this, but it made for nervous times until Eskom's try at 42-24.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting when you do this sort of con streaming, it's audio only. And the funny thing that people kept asking me, no, when's the bomb squad coming on? When's the bomb squad coming on? No, we said it repeatedly, but it's not what they're used to hearing once the bomb squad is on. Sorry to harp on about the bomb squad a little bit. Bomb squad, I get it a little bit, but that definitely lacked that, the punch, the 1-2 punch. He's softened up in the first half, and the bomb squad sort of plants the knockout shot. I want to talk about Kurtley Arendse, though. The one name I didn't hear much tonight was Kolbe, but the one name I did hear a lot tonight, apart from Morgan van der Berg, who had an absolute blinder, was Kirtley Arendse. And I saw him heading after that Italian wing across the field because he left the gap open himself. He was on the wrong side of the field. And he actually saved that try. That was a brilliant tackle. One of the best pieces of defense I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. At test level, there's not many. I can think of Jean de Villiers stealing a try in the World Cup, sliding across, in control. But the fact of Kirtley Arendse being so much in control of his body and spatial awareness and knowing how to whip the guy's body around to give him a chance of maybe getting him out, and then it did. Perfectly adjudicated, wise, careful, a lot of good calls by the refs, the team of 4. No, I think they were individually people. Like I said, Damian Willemse could not be tackled. Kirtley Arendse was everywhere. I thought the old midfield firm, of Damian and Jesse is just so rock solid, and building that 35, that what could have been a 35 was a 28-3 lead. That 28-3 lead situation. I mean, that all that looked good. Mornay getting to the ruck really quickly. Here were the problems. We were ragged throughout the whole game on the breakdown post phase 3. So we could do phase 1, do phase 2. The minute we got to phase 3, we were really late on cleans. We were not efficient on cleans. Our presentment was wrong. It wasn't long enough sometimes. Sometimes our rucks were too quick. That's going to sound like heretical information, but if not everyone is ready and you're going to do a kick or a box kick or you're going to launch some play, allow some time for people to gather in the right spot and have a two-sided attack. We kicked twice. We kicked half the time, half the amount that Italy kicked for a big portion of the game. We carried twice as much as Italy. We threw the ball around twice as much. And we had 3 times as much post-contact meters, but a lot of our runs were isolated. There were people making mini breaks and then no one was there to clean them. We had 60% of the ball. We had 118 rucks. We never build that many rucks. We usually have to resource about 50 to 60, and 75 is a high ruck game for us. When you're wanting Lua Diacher or somebody to get all the way out to the tram to clean a ruck on phase 3 or Oxenche, it's going to be difficult. 169 passes, 156 carries, 400 meters post-contact. That's a lot of rugby. And my contention is once you build a lead of 28-3, then you play Loftus rugby. You play the conditions, you set up your kick chase. They had no defenses against the Lekkerbacks. They struggled in the air against Eben and Lewitt. Lewitt had a great game too, by the way. They had trouble. So just keep playing that. I think Cheslin actually ran around in circles too much. When Faf came on, I almost think he overplayed at 9, if that's possible. It was. So here's the danger of bringing the bomb squad all at once for some maximum effect. What if the guys you're substituting in for were actually playing pretty well? So maybe you'd be more flexible. Don't be rigid. We were rigid before when we waited till the end. Now we bring them on in one big wave with the fireworks going, and they're shooting off fireworks because the bomb squad's going on. And then, I don't know, it's an interesting conundrum. And I think we should think about it. Read the game really well and say, in this game, I think we leave these guys on all the way to 65 minutes. Put the game to bed, and then we can have some fun.
Johan said that the Boks played completely differently. No pods, and you just mentioned all the rucks they were building. A different way of playing, and maybe the question I want to ask you is, was it intentional? Did they try something? Did they test something? Or did they just sort of, uitgerafel in Afrikaans? Did it just sort of fizzle out or,
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I'm going to have to look at it again. I did see Pollard trying to bark out instructions, and they weren't always followed. I also saw that there was severe skullduggery at the ruck. I don't want to go down a ref discussion, but I'm just saying the Italians played the ruck in that really dirty, like dock brawler kind of way the Irish did in Durban. And, every time they would be in a ruck or a breakdown, they would swing their legs around, a lot of boots hitting balls and ankles and elbows. So maybe it was a question of people wanting to sort that out. Dwayne was on very animated, telling the guys in a huddle, what to do. I don't know what those instructions were. I was trying to read his lips. But yeah, it did seem like Marco had to go through a lot of dirty work. So my best supposition, MVA, is that the loose trio, even though it looks fun, it might not have been composed right. Because of Vincent Tshituka, what a talent, you know, he can offload with Archie back and forth, but he's not a worker 7 in the same way that you would think of Mostert, or when Peter Steph put his mind to do just that. I'm not going to carry too much. He is also a wide carrier. Jasper is a carrier. He's not a, you know, put your lunch pail, go to work, blue collar ruck cleaner. He's more of a hard carrier. So it was all on Marco and Marks. And so in a way, there might be a problem there of maybe if you're going to have Vincent be the blindsider, then you've got to have a different player at 8. I don't know. So that's just something I'm thinking out loud right now, actually. The other thing is there was just too much dancing. I don't want to say be like footloose, but I feel like sometimes there were little mini breaks and you just finish it. Stop looking around for, like, they were all started to be guilty of it. They were all starting to look around for something interesting to do. And maybe it was because the score looked like it was safe. I don't know. But at 28-3, okay, maybe I will. And I keep coming back to that obstruction try that was ruled off because it really would have changed the whole game's complexion, which just shows you that rugby's weird. But yeah, I wouldn't get too hung up on it. What's an 18-point victory over a Six Nation team that was incredibly animated and encouraged. You know, it's everyone's final, as someone said recently on our pod. So we're going to get everyone at their best.
Yeah, that's
even if the team is not the best team on the team sheet, we're going to get their best.
One thing about the bomb squad side of the game was the fact that the set pieces stopped working. That worried me. Lineouts suddenly went dry. Scrums didn't go that well. I mean, the first half, we dominated scrums. We actually had a tighty. And we scored a push-over try. You wanted to know what the word is, but here we go. The point is, never mind diffusing the bomb squad, the basics suddenly stopped working. That's fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Because that's actually where I was going with this. If we had it on the schedule and we had it written down that from 45 minutes to 50, whenever there's a big stoppage, we bring on bomb squad. We have the stadium DJ alerted so he can play the bomb music. We have the bomb fireworks. Okay, I know it's fun. It's the gladiators in Rome and such. But in the context of the game, we were killing them at scrums. And that scrum, literally that entire tight 5 was substituted. So there is no way that you're going to have the same synergy. And maybe you don't need it. Maybe you think you could just come on and play a different way, different angle. But Wilco had his opposite guy's number. Marks was playing imperiously. Ibn's work rate, he didn't look tired at all. I mean, he was chasing kicks. He was charging things down. He was getting in the 9's lap too many times so that Holly had to yell at him. There was lots of stuff going on there. I was enjoying seeing Lewitt carry. I just feel like it needed 10 more minutes. And then, you take the curry back to the microwave and heat it up and hit it again. But just let it play out. Let that first course go. And even if you have to disappoint the DJ and the fireworks guy, just say it's okay. I think that tactical awareness has always been a Rassi strength. But I completely understand why you would think at some points, you know what, we're kind of safe. And then they have a little mini fight back. Let's squelch it by a bomb squad. But in this case, I would have brought on Archie or someone like that, but I wouldn't have done the 5. I would not have run them all out there. It was almost like complacent, almost as if we were saying, this game is already won.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Harry. You and I can now say, now looking back, we shouldn't have brought them on. But looking ahead, hindsight is 20/20 vision. The work before, why did, we saw it against Scotland and all other countries, many other countries, suddenly, why wouldn't it work against Italy? I think that the Boks were a bit caught short here. They were outthought here. Honestly, I think that's what happened. I made the sacrilegious comment on WhatsApp, on our little WhatsApp group, that am I seeing some goof troop elements here? And I'm saying, you, Damian Willemse, number one. What did you think of that?
No, I thought Willemse in the end always put his side on straight, and that sequence where he made about 5 different Italians miss him and also ran through contact. I thought it was brilliant. I didn't like Kolbe's running. I thought Kolbe was sometimes getting somewhere and then reversing and making everyone around him really confused. I thought every time Willemse had the ball, he set a ruck. I mean, he knew how to present it and finish it. But I think it was contagious. I think Kwagga did some of that too. There was a bit of that by Bongi. I mean, Bongi, your only job is to run at people's kneecaps. Like, do not try to do any kind of lateral movement. And I think maybe Faf on for Morne was maybe the biggest change of all. If I think back on it, Morne had one mistake. He kicked Holly the ref. The rest of it, he was unbelievable.
He missed her. He was about to kick her, so he missed the ball and everything. He just fell flat on his back.
He's like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, sorry, man.
No, it is hindsight, but I think here's why I think in the present sight I might have done differently. Is I really believe in getting paid for your set pieces, and so the scrum was so dominant. It hadn't got. Because so many of the put-ins were by the Italians, so they could do route one, get it out, and avoid the penalty. And even on the tight head, we didn't get a penalty. We weren't playing an advantage. We just got the ball. I wanted to see more pay out of that. And so there was no sign that Wilco was tired of scrumming. There was no sign that Marks was, fading at all. And the two locks were going. They were good. They haven't played that much rugby. They're excited to be on. I would just let that ride. And I would basically tell them in the earpiece with a water boy, I would just say, you flag us when you feel like, the scrums are sliding down or something. Or have a given signal with a guy like Eben. He's going to be honest and just say, now it's time. And I think that would have been different because I think you would have pinged them more. The minute you changed the set piece, lineouts and scrums went down. The kick chase went down because Eben was doing kick chase. And also Marks is your other jackler. He gave Marco a lot of help at the breakdown, and it's not the same when Bongi's on. He doesn't have the base of leg and arm to get over the ball, and Kwagga's small. So
once again proved that he's not an 8. But that's the story for another day. Just lastly, this instant reactions turning into a long one again. But briefly, I want to give some credit to Morne van der Berg. South Africa's got an abundance of talent at 9. And suddenly, here's this little guy from Joburg seeming to be, in pole position and showing us why Rassie keeps picking it.
It's almost like Faf had a secret son. I mean, he would have been very young, but
yeah,
and he just came out of Hillbrow. Hello,
with the snorri.
Yeah, but not the hair is not grown out yet.
He's got the hair on his lip, not on his head. Yeah.
They play very similar, but I kind of like Morne's delivery. His spiral is very tight, and he can go all the way across. He can skip a guy. He can do that secret plan that Warren Gatlin had, skip a player. Oh my God, a skip pass. Who knew? Yeah. And fool some people, because it actually does fool people when it's from the 9. It doesn't fool very many people from the 10, Warren, because it literally just goes to exactly the guy they were going to hit anyway. But no, there was good signs. I think, Vincent is someone, Tshituka is someone that is really an interesting athlete. He's a throwback to me. He reminds me of how Rassie played. And don't get caught up in what people look like on the skin. Rassie played like that. That's how he played. So he might see himself a little bit in there. A rangy, not too thick, kind of quick guy with a good eye, really athletic. But I just think that poses problems when you play against a team that decides, I'm not going to carry the ball. I'm not going to attack. I'm going to feed off your scraps like Italy did. I'm going to play negative. And you play against that, you've got to do all that fundamental hard work for 60 minutes before they fold. You think you have them at 40, you don't, because they're just going to hang in there. And they did that in the Six Nations. Not everyone, they made really good teams work really hard to beat them. So Italy's no joke.
I want to ask you now, and I know it's totally unfair, but I want to ask you, the Boks barometer, and I'm talking about the Boks themselves, I'm talking about the opponents, New Zealand. If we played New Zealand today, would we have beaten them?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, New Zealand doesn't look right.
Oh, really?
So New Zealand had the ball so much, we would never let them have that much ball. And so if they were having trouble scoring with that much ball, We would have scored the same amount of tries today if we didn't have the ball or had the ball. Our tries were not even created by having the ball. We didn't. Anytime we had the ball, it was almost like a miracle that we had 5 phases. Most of it was off the strike moves, that Boks been doing for years now. New Zealand was struggling with flipping 75% of the ball. I mean, they were sitting down in French territory and they could not punch through. I haven't seen them be that toothless in a while. They look like in their midfield they're struggling. They might need to use Quinn Tupaia at punchy 12 because he came on late and looked good. They seem to almost rely on Will Jordan, and Will Jordan works against most teams, except it doesn't work that much against Lekkerbacks and guys like Willemse with the track back speed. I mean, Damian Willemse caught Caleb Clark in full flight back 10 meters. So we remember that scene. So they don't have that ability to just run away. They could do that against this French team. They couldn't have done it against the proper French team, with the liqueur back, Louis Bielbiere, and sort of awkward David Pinot with his blow-dried hair. And they've got some tenacious D as well. But I just think the New Zealand setup right now, it doesn't look scary enough. Eden Park doesn't look very fortressy. Ready to go there, storm the Citadel with our brothers. There's a lot of people chattering now about people flying over, Borussians and everyone. We're gonna have a scene. We're gonna have we're gonna take over a bar there, and we're gonna burn that mother down. So let's go there.
Don't call me saying I need bail money.
No, I think they're vulnerable, even though they're always going to be the favorites at Eden Park. They're wonderful. All Blacks are incredible. I'm not taking any disrespect, but there's a chink in the armor right now, and I saw it against that wasn't even a B team for the French. That was a team without all their best players. I mean, they had maybe 2 guys out there that would have been in contention for a Scott at 23, but none of them in contention to start.
Well, last question, I promise, and I keep saying, but I want to ask you the other side of that question. In November, we have a great match against the French for that 2023 quarterfinal. French guys look a bit intimidating. I mean, they've got scary depths suddenly. How's that shaping up for the Springboks versus France? Because to me now, suddenly that becomes a bit of a red letter day.
Yeah, that's much harder, I think. So there's also the idea of the end of the season, how at times, but I think you're exactly right. The French, I've always wondered, I said something about the World Cup, which was provocative. I said, they're aroused, but are they hard enough? I feel like they're getting hard enough. I feel like the French are finally hard. And I think it's Sean Edwards. I think they're not making excuses on how they train. They're not smoking as much cigarettes, Gilloise, whatever. They're a little bit less on the cognac and a little bit more on the lemon juice. I think they're doing proper loading of fitness. Top 14 has changed. Top 14 has gone leaps and bounds, gotten better and better. Their Pro D2 is on par with the other leagues, top leagues, and the top 14 is head and shoulders above. I reflected that in the Harry Index by having 4 of their teams in the top 10, and Chiefs and Crusaders far below, their top guys. I think the French have built something in plain sight. We've been watching it. We've been saying that. And, the focus was too much on one guy. Now, that one guy being out this year has allowed us to look at how many 9s they have. Yeah. My God, they have 5 guys that could play in anyone's team. Yeah. The sort of brilliance of guys like Tomas Ramos, who never misses a kick. We're kind of spoiled by the charge down, but that's not going to happen again. You're not going to charge his conversion. He just made his conversion walk up about, 1 inch. So I think the French are a dangerous animal. They're peaking at the right time. If you look back on ages, cohesion, markers, all that stuff, they are exactly where we were kind of 3 years ago. They're building very nicely into this cycle. And I don't think we should consider ourselves favorites to win in Paris this year. I think we have a 50-50 in Eden Park, and I'm going to do whatever it needs to do. I mean, I'll ram my head through a building to win. But I think in France, we have to measure our expectations and say it's going to be probably come down to a kick, and they should be favored. And then I think we take Ireland in Dublin. I think we storm that and knock that thing down. Stop that. We just stop that whole story. But I'm worried about the French. I think the French could end the year sort of at number one, if not in formal rankings, but all of us going, yeah, even their second team is hard.
Listen, a couple of things that we're going to be doing. Firstly, we're going to be investigating this Wales theory. So the Wales with a Whales. We're going to talk about Warren Gatlin's ridiculous, what's the word, insinuations. No, accusations, that's the word. Next Lekker Rugby Pod is going to deal with that. And then lastly, I just want to say, people, the drama at Loftus is not over yet. There's lots of exciting things probably coming soon. So we'll let you know what we hear from that. Yeah, big stuff. Anyway, let's just say the Bulls are going to are extremely ambitious, more than you think. So let's leave it at that. Thanks, Harry. That was lekker.
Okay, cheers.